Four things you must do before giving people advice. It is possible you've been engaging in advice giving, and entirely it's not a wrong thing. But at what point should we stop giving advice? First, what is in the mind of the advisor? I believe the advice we give is intended to be helpful, is intended to offer guidance, suggestions, and even tell others what they should do, most times without them asking for it. However, if we don't take care, if we don't take considerations, regardless of our intentions, giving advice that isn't wanted can be annoying, intrusive, and even manipulative. Majority of people are so quick to give advice, are so quick to open up and lecture the other person who is needy at that particular time, and they start directing the person what they should do, what they should not do, especially in the area of emotional and mental health. Advice giving has been abused to greater heights. And maybe one of the reasons why I and you should consider our swiftness to offer advice to people is for us to consider what unsolicited advice is. And according to psychocentral.com, unsolicited advice is guidance or information that wasn't asked for. For example, a lady called Katrina confides in her mother about her boyfriend's infidelity. Her mother tells her that cheating is a deal breaker and she should break up with him because it will only get worse. Katrina feels judged and unsupported by her mother. In the mind of the mother, she wanted to help the daughter. She's concerned of the daughter's emotional and mental effects of a heartbreak, of what will happen if the relationship the daughter believed in breaks up. But if she was to listen to Katrina keenly, Katrina wasn't asking her for that advice. Katrina wanted her mother to listen to her pain, perhaps to the story that revolves her boyfriend's infidelity. She didn't want an advice. She didn't want the mother to think of her along that line. But the mother goes out, opens up her mouth, and thinks she has given an advice, but she ends up breaking the communication that was to happen. She ends up creating a wall of separation between her and her daughter. That is what happens when we rush to give advice before we have created an environment of receptivity, before we have invited the person who we think needs advice to give us permission to advise them. So, in this video, I want to share with you four things you must do so that you inhibit or restrict the desire and the temptation to give unsolicited advice. so that you can also save your relationships, create harmony, and create open communication channels between you and the person you want to advise. One, listen to their story. The person you saw itching to advise has a story. This story has to do with their experiences, their situations, what they are going through, which could be hurtful, which could be painful, which could be overwhelming emotionally and mentally. But it is a story that is real to them, but not real to you. I like using this analogy. Anyone who's coming to you and they are sharing their pain, their misery, their frustrations with you, consider them a cup which is full. They're already saturated with pain, anger, frustrations, sadness, grief. So the cup is already full. So to give advice is synonymous to adding more content into an already full cup. That won't be logical, neither will it be rational. Because the idea behind pouring more content on a container, on a cup, or on anything is because you want that cup or that container to receive that content you're adding. But if you are adding content to an already full container, it means what you're adding is going to spill over, is going to be wasted. And that definitely is not your intention. It is the same with advising people. When you start offering guidance, offering direction and suggestions, before you've listened to the person's story, before you've listened to them invite you into their space where they break down, where they become vulnerable and share with you the pain, the suffering, the misery, the anger, and everything, you are attempting to fill a cup that is already full. So, first, listen to their story. When you do that, one, you allow them to release the negative energy that has been building up ever since they experienced what they experienced. You're also allowing them to listen to their own personal story. They're able to identify some details in the story which they will not have had gotten into if they had not shared with you. Three, you also help them feel relieved because the sharing of their story involves the motion of thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And we know negative energy and definitely positive energy is stored in our bodies or in our minds and hearts in form of thoughts, emotions, and feelings. So as they share that story, there's motion of that negative energy from them to without. And that is what creates that sigh of relief. I've had it several times. The people I've interacted with tell me, after you listened to me, you've not judged me. I felt like a huge load has been lifted off my shoulder. And that is when I realize, wow, so just listening, just letting the person share their story is enough to get them into the mode of receiving or opening up to more help or actually getting better. So listen to their story. Number two, Help them own up that part of their story. Most times, we are frustrated and we are hurting because of the painful part of our story. In our own interpretations, we feel the experience was unjust, was ill intended, was meant to harm us, to injure us, and to hurt us. However, as this person shares their story with you, you can see that all the pain that they have internalized could be down to misinterpretation, could be down to the fact that they were being driven by distorted thinking. But as you listen to them, you can help them not to disown that part of their story. That pain, that frustrations, that injury could be a source of inspiration for boundary setting, for choosing a different partner for marriage, for choosing a different cause, for choosing a different business, for learning more about the subject matter. So help them own up that part of their story that is painful, because it is painful, yes, but it can be a source of strength, a source of motivation, a source of courage as they go forward. For example, in the story of Katrina, the mom should have allowed Katrina to share her frustrations and her pain, and eventually help Katrina to own up her role into the situation she was in right now. Is it possible that there are some telltale signs that Katrina ignored in her fiancé, in her boyfriend, that definitely made her look surprised at the infidelity, whereas the infidelity was still there even while she was meeting this guy, only that she didn't see. So Katrina's mother can help Katrina own up to that part of the story, because definitely Katrina was feeling guilty, was feeling disappointed with herself that she couldn't identify, she couldn't see that his boyfriend was a cheat, and she could have avoided that situation. That was definitely the thoughts that were crisscrossing Katrina's mind. Number three, help them take stock of the power they still have. So even after going through suffering, injustice, mistreatment, abuse, it is natural to feel helpless and powerless, especially if what happened to you was meted to you by an adult, by a superior person. You might feel insignificant, you feel powerless, you feel worthless, but that is the overall view we give to situations. But when you take some time, you will realize that what you went through was hurtful, was painful, yes, but it didn't it didn't mess you as the first reaction made it look. So helping them to take stock of the power they still have means this person can also see that it is their resilience that has still made them to be alive today. For a child who went through child emotional neglect and abuse, if they're still alive and they're telling the story, it shows the strength they still have. The fact that it happened to them in childhood doesn't mean now because they're adults they should still suffer from the past. They can attach blame and responsibility on the adults then, but now because he or she is an adult, she can make a choice never to re-experience that again. She can join a healing program, a reparenting program that can help them sober up and can help them become more in charge of their lives. So help them take stock of the power that is still with them. Help your daughter feel that even though the boy has cheated on her, it has to do with him. It's him who has lowered his standard. But as far as the girl is concerned, the lady is concerned, she's still intact. She's not the one who has cheated. So it's the guy who has gone astray. But as for her, she's still stable. Nothing of her has been taken away. She's still intact. Number four, help them take action to move from I am the victim to I am in charge space. Much of the sufferings, pain, mistreatment, and injustice we go through, they make us occupy the I am the victim position. And this is commonly if it is experiences that talk about your childhood. If it's mistreatment, abuse when you were a child, then you take the victim space for you to survive. Otherwise, it could have been worse. But as you grow up, you can no longer stay in I am the victim space because then it means you're allowing your childhood experiences to influence your present and how you should be treated in the present. But if you create a distinction that what happened to you then was unfair, was unjust, but then you are inexperienced, you are powerless, you're only a child. But now, since you are an adult, you can make your own decisions and you can make choices and you can mentally move from I am the victim because you can't benefit by staying in the victim space for long. As an adult, you have to be I am in charge because you need to make decisions and choices that you weigh their consequences, you weigh their repercussions, and you can make choices that will benefit you without waiting for someone to tell you this is right or is wrong. So those are the four things you should consider or do before you give this person advice. I believe if you can allow someone to stay in their space, then it is easier for them to make changes. It's easier for them to feel better rather than pulling them quickly into your space and starting advising them, directing them using your own experiences, because then that belittles them and that might block them from opening up to you. So consider those four things, and I believe they're likely to make you be a good friend, a good spouse, a good parent than you have been. Thank you. See you. My name is Coach Martin.